Merry Meet, it's Annie, and Monday on Pagan Perspective. Our topic this week comes from Cat Eyes 13. And Katie wrote us, lately a lot of my friends and coworkers have been making comments about magic, but most of them think of it in the sense of pop culture, magic, and therefore a lot of the things they say aren't extremely accurate. For instance, they might say things like, I wish I could be a witch, like Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Or, wands can only be made by someone who is a trained wand maker like Ollivander. As these comments have increased lately, I'm finding it difficult for me as a pagan to know how to, or even if I should, respond to them. It's not like I want to get all preachy, as I doubt they're even interested in actual witchcraft, but at the same time, I want people to be educated about my beliefs. My question is, how would you, or do you, react to magic references of a pop culture nature, and how would you advise someone to react to these types of comments? So my first thought is that every one of us will react differently, even our mood at the moment that we hear a conversation, that something is said as a pop culture reference to paganism or witchcraft or even Wicca. The fact that that's shown up in the popular culture over the last decade. Our mood of the moment may have us rise up to respond, but in general for me, no, it does not. Pop culture to me is pop culture. It's fantasy, it's stories, it's make-believe. I don't relate to the characters and don't feel the need to defend it's not that or this is what I am. However, over the last 10 years, especially with so many of these media kind of things, TV shows and books, even some beautiful music that has kind of a reference, I've had wonderful conversations with people who know something about who I am, and therefore it leads them to ask a question. I saw this movie, and only somebody can make your wand, or I'd love to be able to have your powers, and then you can lead into a good conversation. But when it comes to general, like, water cooler conversations at work, where someone makes a comment about a witch they saw on TV or a movie, I don't feel any connection to the pop culture representation of us. So I don't react. But I do react when there's an opportunity to have a conversation because someone is curious. And it often will happen because somebody says, I know you're a witch. Can you step off the top of a house and float down to the ground? Thinking of practical magic. It does give the platform for a conversation with those who really want to have a conversation. The people I have those conversations with, though, are people who know a little bit about me. And people in my community. And I did do a talk at our UU church one time about, we didn't call it pop culture view of witchcraft, but I can't remember what I called it, but it was talking about some of these references, and at the time, it was about the time The Craft came out. The first thing is I had to go see it, because I don't do movies and stuff generally, so a lot of these pop culture references go right over my head. I have no idea, for instance, who Ollivander is, and I know a lot of you are going, you gotta be kidding. Hey, it's the truth. So maybe that's another reason why I don't react to pop culture statements about us. I'm not into them. But there have been times I've been able to have a really good conversation with someone. And there was a fantastic NCIS episode, oh gosh, has it been almost 10 years ago, that had Wiccans in it. And we were very well represented, actually, if I remember correctly. Not that they had what we do right, but they had us right, our philosophies. And practical magic, wonderful opportunities to talk about, can you really do those things? Use the example of the women coming together with all their implements from their kitchens to create their cone of energy. There's been wonderful opportunities when someone already knows something about me that have led to the pop culture entry into a discussion has been interesting. Maybe because it's comfortable at the level of the person who's asking the question, because they have a starting place. But as far as me reacting when I hear, I don't. It's fantasy. It's another thing separate from me, and I don't really... If someone did a documentary, I have opinions about the documentaries I see on TV. And in fact, my husband does now too. He didn't know what a Wiccan was until he met me, but now he corrects. He yells at the TV, and he corrects it because of all the documentaries and how poor they are. So I will have that as a basis of discussion with somebody who will say to me, I saw this documentary, and then they're almost sorry they asked. But when it comes to pop culture, except for the times it's been a platform to have a discussion with those who say, Annie, I saw this in a movie and and then we can talk about it. It's because they know something about me. But as far as I just don't react to the pop culture comments that I hear people make. I really, really don't. Now, if I hear a comment that is, I saw this movie and there were Wiccans in it. Do you know there's really Wiccans in life and they do spells to hurt people? Or they do this or they do that? I will. That is a time at which when they turn pop culture into a comment about us in our lives in reality, I'm all over that. Almost always. There are still venues in my life I choose not to have the discussions. But when it's about that world of fantasy, when it's about movies or books or TV shows that are not documentary, I don't relate to them as me or any way connected to me. You get Nancy? First you wanted to be in the video, and now you get Nancy. Min-pin attention spans, very short. I could time my videos to keep them short by how short Bogie's attention span is. When it comes to the things that witches do on TV shows or movies, the comments made about them, or people saying, I wish I could twitch my nose and make something happen, I'll just say, I wish I could too. And I just don't go there. I don't relate to it as reality. It's a fantasy world separate from the world I live in. When it overlaps with the world I live in and becomes personal in some way, those things, as pop culture things, can be a good springboard for conversations. So there is great value into having them as a starting place in conversations. I think part of my reasoning behind how I respond to these things is I don't know whereof they speak because I haven't seen the things they're speaking of. That influences me too, I think. So when there is something that I have experience of, let's say the movie Practical Magic, it's been great fun to have it as a springboard for conversation. Like so many things, each of us is going to react differently and feel whether something is landing personally or not. I think the difference is very rarely do these things land personal to me. So that's probably why I don't feel the need to rise up at them. Interesting question. And something we can all relate to because we all have this happen to us. Very, very interesting for us all to comment on and exchange our thoughts. I wish you all mirth and reverence. Merry part.